conversations with people from the world of performance who are experimenting in very interesting ways in their chosen form. Enjoy.
Let me show you the most famous pair that ever existed for the 6 schools of children that I went to for I don't know how many years. Can you see them?
You?
So this is Choku.
The cube head.
And this is Pili. Yeah, cube head. And they have turned 42. So here is another character which was, this I created during the pandemic, and it was very, I should say it was a very deep experience for me to finally come out with this character. And I made a very short film, and the trigger was the migrants who were going back home during the pandemic and how much they were suffering. So it was really how to express the suffering of the people at that time.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast Theatre of Joy. I'm so excited to introduce to all of you Ranjana Pandey. Ranjana Pandey is a puppeteer, and that's the least of all the universe that she lives in. And I'm going to go directly to her and let's start talking. There's so much to talk about. Ranjana Pandey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I feel so honored that you're here on the podcast today and that I can, introduce you to all my friends and people who watch. Thank you so much. God bless you. And over to you now.
Thank you, Harleen. And I always feel a bit stumped when people say things like this, because I really don't know what I have actually done, because as you said, there is so many experiences, I guess, there's a long runway that we have been on. And when I go to people and they say, usually at the end of the session, they'll say, "Oh, but ma'am, how old are you?" And I say, well, let's put it like this, I'm over 50. And that works. That works for me as well. Because, 50 is like a midway mark. And I really like to see back as well as look ahead. And I think whatever the experiences have been through life, the thread which has taken me right through has been puppetry. So I'm really grateful to serendipity, to the universe, to the way things worked out, to the people in my life who popped out of the woodwork and put me on track, And puppetry is what upholds me, gives me a sense of life, actually. That's what it means for me. Yeah.
Yes. Serendipity. That's
yes. Yeah. There's no other way I can explain it. I mean, can you imagine? I was started my professional life as a television producer. I was working for Doordarshan. Yes, I had a passion for working with children, and that's what I was doing on Doordarshan as well. But I'm pretty dissatisfied because, working in the studio is it's a very dry kind of affair. It doesn't, Yeah, it's very dry. And when you're supposed to look at the camera, at least I have you sitting at the other end, so I can smile at you. But when you're looking into a camera in a studio, there's nothing. So it feels totally fake. So I wasn't particularly happy doing what I was doing. And then I was meandering aimlessly in a city in Europe. I mean, can you imagine how different the world was to what I was doing here? And I walk into this interesting door and I step straight into my first ever puppet theater show.
How old?
Just like that.
Sorry, how old were you then?
I was about 22,
Oh,
21, 22, yeah.
wow.
And I was just bombed, I was bombed by the experience, by the energy, by the drama, the performance, the theatrical, everything. And I just, on a whim, went up to the puppeteers after the show and I said, would you mind if I just hang around here and observe? And they were quite amused, because at that time in Europe, there weren't that many brown faces walking around. So it was a novelty. And so they said, yes, 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 come. And puppeteers, I discovered, are extremely warm and welcoming. Before I knew it, I was part of the team and they had offered to teach me and I was happily learning. And I was passed on like a parcel from one puppet theater to another. And that was actually how I learned puppetry and got into it.
I understand the serendipity now. Yes.
Yeah, really. It was just, it's amazing. And then after this experience, and I decided, oh, this is it. I'm never going back to television or, or to cinema or anything. This is what I want to do. It combined everything that I enjoyed, working with my hands, fooling around with paint, creating, creating characters, working with children, stories, storytelling, the whole lot. And then life took me, I got married, I came back to India, and I was wondering how I can connect up and create a space. There was no puppet theater. There was Kathputli, which I knew, of course, and I had experienced it as a child, never forgotten it. I sought out the Kathputli performers in Delhi and tried to put my two puppetry experiences together. What I had seen in Europe of traditional puppet theater, of working with children, and what the Kathputli tradition had to offer. And so I literally started fooling around with puppets. I was doing string puppetry at that time. It was marionettes. And so there was a proper bond with the Kathputli puppeteers. I could actually be very, very genuinely amazed at how manipulating with just their fingers, with just 3 strings. And I needed a cross. And I needed 5 strings or 8 strings or 12 strings. But these puppeteers were phenomenal. They were so spontaneous. They were authentic. They were so... And that, Harleen, those are the qualities which I really cherished and always wanted to stay connected to traditional puppeteers all through my profession somehow. So that was struggle time. Then again, serendipity happened. And it was a double whammy, actually. One was that I was gifted a daughter who was intellectually disabled. So it kind of put a spanner in the spokes. Life was going like this. And then suddenly it was like, oh, brakes on, halt, reassess what's going on. How do we deal with this? And even in that space, I had friends who were puppeteers who just happened to pop up and say, let's do a show.
Mm.
And I said to this gentleman, at the moment, I'm not in that space, but yes, why don't you come over? I offer you my space. You do a performance here. I'll get the neighborhood children together. And so I actually started a small Sunday puppet theater at home. And kids would gather, and this gentleman would come with his puppets, and he would perform. And that kind of healed that process of adjustment to a new life that I had discovered. And it brought...
Sorry.
Hmm?
Turned a problem into possibility.
Yeah. Opportunity. The door opened. And then I found again that I had an opportunity to, I was invited to go to Jamia, work in the nursery school, which again I did because, I was dealing with my own young children, and I thought, oh, this is quite natural. I could probably try doing it. So I stepped into that. And will you believe it, around the same time, Jamia was beginning to start their MCRC. My husband, who makes films, was part of the team that was developing the syllabus. And Jamal Kidwai and Margaret Beveridge, the two visionaries who were behind the MCRC, we used to meet them often. They were good friends, and they were always extremely excited about my puppetry. And they kept saying, you've got to put the two together. And I couldn't get it because I had dabbled with mass media. That was my training. I did mass communication, I did journalism. And suddenly I said, yeah, this is it. There's a continuity. Communication doesn't, mass media, communication, television, radio, it just doesn't happen, boom, like that. It's a continuum of storytelling. It's a continuum from the traditional to the contemporary. And let me bumble along once again. Let me explore. Let me see if I can do it. They placed a lot of trust in me. And I used to feel that, oh God, I hope I don't let the students down. I hope I don't let the faculty down. I don't know what I'm doing. But within 2 years, it became absolutely clear what a phenomenal medium for community communication, for development communication puppetry was. The students were excited. We made puppets. We did films on boarding things, not films. We did shows on adult education, adult literacy, family planning, all kinds of things. And again, a whole new field opened up.
Look where your bumble led you.
Yeah, it was just so phenomenal. The experience of going to a community which had never seen puppets of this kind before, just setting up a very basic structure, with a curtain, bringing the puppets out from behind that, using your lung power because you couldn't depend on electricity, using a dholak and live musicians to get the attention of the people, battling with the water supply timings. I remember we were doing a show in Mangolpuri. We had hundreds of people watching. Suddenly there was a call from somewhere at the back. The entire audience ran away. We were left there standing with our puppets. I said, "Hello, what happened? What happened?" He said, "Pani aa gaya." Pani aa gaya.
That's life.
That's it. Pani aa gaya. So it was such a wonderful learning experience. And you realize that, I kept learning. I kept learning what power puppets have. I kept exploring it, and I was always bombed by whatever I found. We used to do all these stories on on understanding and accepting people with mental disabilities. That became a big agenda. Have to make stories and take it across. People don't know anything about it. Those who are not educated, there was no internet. Information was zero. So how to take it to people? This is what we did. We create a story, have these puppets, larger than life puppets, stereotypes, archetypes, put it all together, and then show it to the people. And after every show, there would be about 20, 25 people, a gaggle of people sitting there, not wanting to leave. Then you go up to them and sit with them and say, "Kya hua? ये तो मेरी कहानी, आपने तो मेरी कहानी बता दी." It was so moving to understand that you had, actually made the mark, and that they were open now to move ahead, to move forward, to seek, to lead, to understand. So it was a fabulous journey, and we kept on.
And a validation, I said. And I was so excited to read about what you termed as intellectual disability, and you brought in that also in the physical disability.
I would say that I had no choice, because I had this wonderful teacher at home. She was all of 5 or 6 or 7, but I was learning all the time. And whatever I learned from her, I would take to the school, and that was the other parallel. I would be teaching in Jamia. I would be doing development communication performances in communities and villages. And I was going with a team to 5 or 6 centers for children with disabilities. And we used to do weekly performances in the classroom. And that's where this wonderful, you'd walk in with a headache and tired because there was no electricity the night before. पूरी रात पंखा झला बच्चों पे, सुबह उठ के थैला उठाया, puppets डाले, and maybe take one child along to the show with you. And so you've gone there with with not feeling fully there. You come into the classroom and there is an explosion of energy. Yes. Headache is gone. You come out of the session smiling because you've got so much from the children.
Yes. And that interaction, those of us who've seen those times, and now you just put a phone in front of your face and talk into it. I mean, you don't see anybody else.
Yeah.
And that was such a wonderful thing. It's still there.
It's still there. You have to seek it out. You have to make a bigger effort. And you have to battle with, of course, everything changes. Everything has changed, Everything has changed, yeah.
Very fast.
Very fast. Yeah, time goes like this. Everything has changed. The children have changed, their expectations have changed. But I feel that somewhere inside, we are still, of course, human beings. We are still emotional beings. The same triggers work for us. And these distractions of the phone and all that, we can work without them. You can use them to your advantage.
I'm grateful for them. But that one-to-one, or, that real meeting people and experience, I miss those. Life is also for the people that we'd like to relate with, I guess.
Yeah, it's become a habit now. People feel that you're not able to just be, not able to just sit. You need to reach for the device and look at it.
And you had You have the experience of using so many mediums to say your saying, to connect. You have the
Yeah.
film, the television,
Yeah.
the real people to people experiences. And what a universe. How
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I have, yes, it's true. And even though I say everything has changed, there's that continuity is still there. I'm still working with children who are in difficult circumstances or who are intellectually disabled. But what has changed? Now these kids, Harleen, are going to school. They're going to mainstream school because the government has decided that every child must go to school. We used to fight for it. Now it's just happening. So on the one hand, you feel, wow, this is great. They've got a uniform, they've got a bag, they feel like everybody else, they're going to school. But ऊपर से डाला है ना,
And schools take up
society.
so much time
Yeah.
from a
And
child.
they take
And in
up
a
so much
box.
time.
Sorry.
Yes, they're in a box and there's, inclusion hasn't happened. Social inclusion hasn't happened. We are still not comfortable with anybody who's very different. So for the kids who are going to school, it's a very, very tough deal.
A very mean experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I hear it every day. पिटाई होती है, लड़के एक दूसरे की पिटाई कर देते हैं. They are teased, they are called names, and so now the therapeutic aspect of puppetry.
Yes. Yes.
So now you can actually work with the puppets and work with people who are in so much difficulty, who suffered the trauma, who have all these narratives dabe hue inside them, who've closed themselves up, unhappy, and then use the puppets to open the knots, to give them this feeling of wholeness. So that's another application. That's yet another space which I flowed into and learned to explore. That is also very, very fulfilling, not just for me, but it's very fulfilling for the person who participates in it.
I mean,
So
there must
for
be
the
so many
children,
people, young people who you take along with you, who can find puppetry as a profession and or as a medium of communication.
yeah.
If it is
Yeah, I must say, yeah, I was in the sense that when I ended up teaching in Jamia, it was like it began with the first batch was 5 students. By the end of it, a few years ago, it was 50 students. And there are many such courses. So yes, the exposure to puppetry has been in hundreds and thousands.
I believe if something is happening, that is the joy of it, or then possibilities open up. And yeah, and a person like you who looks far ahead from what is going on in the moment and is able to reach out to the future or to the vast expanse of what we all human beings are part of, and just leave something behind. And now we have the internet. I mean, today, since morning, I've been reading up about you, whatever is available on internet. And I'm so grateful for
I
people
have no,
who make
yeah, but
content, actually. You
I
guys
guess,
make the content. And
I guess I have to say that, yeah, there must be some, इसमें भी अब बहुत अच्छा ही है कि कुछ तो लोगों को पता चल जाता है, otherwise पता ही नहीं चले. So I don't know. मुझे पता नहीं what is on the internet about me. I have never searched Google for myself, so I don't have the time to do it, even if I want to
and you're
sometimes
making
out of
content.
curiosity. But
Yes,
yes, there must be enough.
there is.
So,
There is.
even I've decided, I said, Acha, chalo, this is a medium which we all have to use. And, since I haven't been doing proscenium shows, I never did any. And I don't have the energy anymore to do development communication and bhage ja rahe hain gaon mein perform karne. So I've more and more after Khullum Khulla, which was a great watershed for me, it brought so many things together. It was super fun. I worked with young puppeteers. It was creative. It was wonderful. It was wonderful for the audience also because the studio used to get sackfuls of letters from kids all over the country.
Those were such lovely
Wow,
times.
beautiful. And it's still alive. It's on YouTube, thanks to my son. Like your daughter, he's my techno support. So he's put it on YouTube and it's still there. It seems to have a good shelf life. Perfect. So I said, Acha, if it is there, then maybe I should also do something with it. So I went back to my earlier skills of, film and started doing tiny little films just to enjoy myself because that's also life. So
That
I
is
would make
life, actually. This is joy leads us by our nose.
so your theater of joy, this is my theater of joy. Just sit, make something, and then make a little film out of it, and then first watch it myself critically. Then sometimes I have the courage to send it around to people and say, "What do you think?" And then one of my young 25-year-old help slash friend slash said, "Why don't you make a YouTube channel?" I thought, Acha, okay. Instead of keeping all this on, various parts of my computer, I can put it all there. So that's another thing I'm learning, how to go about it. What is the meaning of having a YouTube channel? What is it that you really want to say to people? Because then it's not the audience that I know. I can't see them like Harleen, I don't know who will go into that channel and see it and say what. So, in a way, it's full circle. Sitting in Doordarshan studio.
Who knows what else is there in the future?
I know.
And
Exactly.
I love the way that throughout your creative life, you have been willing to get on a paradigm and get off it, be ready to get off it and change and, embrace the future, as they say. That's.
Yeah. Yeah, and I must say, I've really benefited, Harleen, from having younger puppeteers around me and, sort of feeding off their energy and their dynamism, because that is really a gift. And it's my exploration of a publication called Sutradhar, which UNIMA brings out, or even my engagement with the foundation courses in UNIMA, or trying to do a formalized training, because having suffered from having had no training except for what I explained to you earlier, you went to a theater and you learned, but beyond that there was nothing. You had to read yourself. You had to read, you had to understand that there's a theory, you had to dive deep and have the intention to do it, and find the material and inform yourself. But I find that that is a discipline which youngsters have today. They may not have the same, they're different, but they have so many qualities that they have the drive, they don't mind jumping in the deep end. So it's a wonderful journey. And yes, I've explored all the deep ends thanks to अच्छा तुमने छलांग लगाई तो मैं भी कर सकती हूँ.
And the internet is large enough to accommodate anything.
That's true.
I mean, like, it's a different space than what we were used to earlier. But well,
Well, at the moment we are doing what we are doing because of the internet. So that is, and tell me a little about, how do you propose to the Theatre of Joy pieces? How do you propose to have a following or put it in a platform which is relevant?
I'm putting it out there. I know
Mm.
that these conversations I have are very valuable, because they'll be there for posterity. So that is one. And I'm just learn to dive deep. I'm on Instagram, I'm on
Mm.
Facebook, and
Mm.
I'm learning the algorithm and
Mm.
demands it makes of us. How would
Mm.
videos show up more often on YouTube?
Right.
I'm doing that. I'm doing what it takes, which you have been doing. Whatever space you chose or you were in at the moment,
Yeah.
you just learned what it would take to do that space, and you do, and I'm doing
Yeah.
that. So I'm hoping, I mean, the views are not bad now,
Okay.
and
Mm.
I've been told it takes a year of
Acha.
consistent work to be
Oh,
there. But
of
your interview, I'm going to cut out bits of it,
course.
and,
Yeah.
quotes, as they say, and just throw it all around.
Mm.
And people will then want to watch the whole video.
Mm.
And
Acha, like that. Okay. 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 Yeah. So it's what I thought was that just to put so I can send you, like I spoke about my Theatre of Joy, my little films that I make. So I can send you a few clips of those.
yes, please. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
And then I have some photographs, believe it or not, I do,
Mm,
of the time that I spoke of, doing development communication in a city which had no experience of it before. So I have some pictures of that time.
great.
And yeah, and what I don't really have are good pictures. Everything was on VHS,
Uh,
and those colored photographs were just kharab ho gayi. So unfortunately, I had such beautiful documentation on my work with the mentally handicapped children in schools. There was a film that I made, and it's lost. So a lot of things are lost like that. So, but whatever I have, I can share with you, and then you can piece it together and do it.
yeah, but right now I have you
Yeah.
on. So, uh, you know, what? I'd love to hear your terms about how you are going to walk into the future.
Oh, I don't think too much about the future, Harleen. It's about today.
That's a good strategy also. And you do whatever it takes that today needs.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that I don't have a planner and I don't do Google Calendar. I do all of that. Yeah, because I need to be engaged. But my real answer to that is to apply puppetry as therapy and
Require
just
today's world, yes.
and dive deep into that. That is what I don't want to go this ways. I want to go this ways. So that is really my plan wherever the opportunity is. And believe me, it's not easy to create those opportunities. The moment I was ready for it, I had done a certificate course in puppet therapy. After having used it all my life in whichever intuitive way I found, but like you use the word validation, the course was first validation for whatever I had been doing. And at the second level, it gave me access to so much research and scientific basis, which was lacking for me. So that has really empowered me and given me the strength to want to dive deep, but to find the opportunities for do it the way it should be done is not easy outside of my own comfort zone. And my comfort zone is Jan Madhyam. Jan Madhyam is the NGO which emerged from all the puppetry that we were doing in the early years. So now it's a full-fledged center. There are 3 village centers, and it welcomes all children, but especially children with special needs at different ages and stages. Some are verbal, some are non-verbal, some are physically challenged as well, but they're all wonderful, beautiful to work with. And that's my comfort zone. So I do that. And the other plan that I have is to find new ways to, or new platforms to propose a solid foundation for puppeteers. Now I think I am quite clear in my head on what would make a good foundation. What is it that you need? Because not all of us are talented in the same way. And I might be very interested in puppetry, but I can't make beautiful puppets. You need, puppetry is difficult, Harleen. You have to be a sculptor, a painter, a singer, everything. So you may be a wonderful storyteller, but you can't make those wonderful puppets. So like that, there are building blocks which would make collaboration the way to go. And so you collaborate with people who have different skills, who are better at one skill than you are, because together you want to create something. So that is a building block. How do you develop successful collaborations? It's only by having the opportunity of working together. So you have to have different kinds of people in the same space, working together intensely. And then will emerge a team. I'm sure you've experienced this throughout your professional life as well, is that, when you're creating a stage play and it's a performance, everybody has a different role. There's multiple tasks that have to be done. And each one plays a really important role. So that, of course, the spirit of collaboration, the spirit of giving and taking and learning. I mean, these are attitudinals. It's not the ABC. And the other thing I think is really hard work, which, since we were grouching about the present generation, everything has to be easy. Cycle nahi, motorcycle. Motorcycle nahi, car. Laptop nahi, mobile.
What's right about that? I said about that.
So, but without that hard work and that perseverance, you don't get excellence. You don't get that quality. So that rigor is definitely a building block.
Yeah. It has to be everybody's theatre of joy, actually.
Well, if you don't enjoy it, then don't do it, please. If you don't enjoy it, then don't do it.
Yeah, then don't do it.
Yeah. So that's the other plan, if you like, is to, continue to create these spaces for dialogue, for discourse, for training. But I'm not like running after it, or serendipity is my mantra. हो गया तो हो गया, नहीं तो कोई कारण होगा.
And it has worked for you till now. So it is going to work. So Ranjana, can you do have some puppets right now around you or something? No?
Yeah, I have them sitting all around. So first and foremost, let's do, let me show you the most famous pair that ever existed for the 6 schools of children that I went to for I don't know how many years. Can you see them?
You?
So this is Choku.
The cube head.
And this is Pili. Yeah, cube head. And they have turned 42.
Good Lord. So would you just do something with them?
You know, they're in such bad shape now because they're 42, which is in human years, it is 240.
I know.
Choku is just about fallen apart. But Apili is still ready to go. Right, here she is, right? Get going.
After watching the YouTube videos, this is like meeting a celebrity.
मैं celebrity? वाह वाह आंटी जी, आप तो मेरी बेस्ट आंटी हो, आपने मेरे को सेलिब्रिटी बोल दिया. लेकिन आंटी जी मैं फेसबुक पे नहीं हूँ, मेरा इंस्टा भी नहीं बनाया इन्होंने.
अच्छा,
या नहीं बनाया इंस्टा.
कहाँ बनते थे?
I know. That's true. So no Insta, no Facebook, but that's Choco and Pili. Yeah. So that's how it began, with really simple child-friendly puppets. And they were sturdily built so that they could take the beatings and the hugs and the crushing to the heart moments. Kids would come, step up, grab them, big slobbery kisses, you know. Yeah. They survived them all. And so there was a host of glove puppets, really simple stuff. But, and you know, this one is designed after my own Dachshund. So I had a Dachshund, and this was a Dachshund who was just too cute, and everybody loved him. Why? Because his tail had to be washed. And it was a whole thing which happened because the kids would come up on the stage and they'd take a brush and they'd be washing, you know, they'd be scrubbing his tail and be saying, and then it would be going in with washing behind his ears and washing behind the tail. And what was the purpose? They had to understand that you have to clean behind the ears and you have to clean yourself properly. But when you did it to Brownie, it was so much more fun. So you taught, you learned, and you taught. It was fun. But you know, as time went by, my community puppets were huge because, you know, lots of people were watching them. Khullum Khulla, you know what they were like. Khullum Khulla, they're like Muppets. But then as time went by, I think I got more and more aware of people in the community and reflecting them. And somehow, whenever I put myself down to make puppets, they would be older, maybe reflecting my own years. And they would always be from very humble origins. So once again, you know, the people that I work with have found their way into my family of puppets. So this is like pretty recent, I would say. Then there's this one. I'll send you a little film of Tauji.
Tauji.
Tauji. Everybody knows Tauji like this, no?
Oh, he's such a darling.
Yeah, he's quite a sweetheart. Yeah, so that's Tauji. I don't know how to perform for your camera.
Just put them in front of you and like you did with
Yeah. So here is another character which was this I created during the pandemic, and it was very, I should say it was a very deep experience for me to finally come out with this character. And I made a very short film, and the trigger was the migrants who were going back home during the pandemic and how much they were suffering. So it was really how to express the suffering of the people at that time. And as my world is so peopled with those who are challenged, and there are so many of them who live on the streets. So can you imagine what life must have been like for them? So this is one of the characters that I made. So that's it. I've only brought a few. I have hundreds of puppets.
You must be.
Hundreds of puppets. And a lot of them are sitting in Tihar jail. I don't know how to get them out of there, but they are in jail now. I don't know what to do. Because I was doing a project there. They have not been, मतलब पुलिस ने गिरफ्तार नहीं करा, लेकिन मैं उनको वहां ले गई और एक प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा था तिहाड़ जेल में, which I was working with the under not the convicts, but those who were under trials, and men who were under trials. And it was a very large group. And slowly out of the group, there were about 10 or 15 men who wanted to continue with this project. And so I had these large puppets, and they were working with them. They wanted to dress them all over again. They wanted to repaint them. And we were going ahead very nicely until one of the young under trials छुरा निकाल के किसी को मार डाला. और उसके बाद प्रोजेक्ट बंद, कोई बाहर से आ नहीं सकता, कोई कुछ कर नहीं सकता. So I would keep knocking on the door and saying, हाँ लेकिन मेरे puppets हैं. So मैडम यहाँ पे जान की पड़ी हुई है सबको, आप अपने puppets के बारे में पूछ रहे हो. I did that 2-3 times, and I said, अच्छा चलो, that's where they belong. Move on, move on.
Excellent. Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's the only ones that are missing from my collection, but I have a whole lot of puppets.
And so do you have any training or lab or something going on, or will go on, or will happen, so that people who would like to, learn and puppetry can find you?
Well, if they find me, they can come, and I would be very happy to teach anybody. But I don't have
a training program.
No, I don't have a training program, and I'm not no, it's all under UNIMA, actually. So it's not individual. That's a way of working, Harleen, which I had all through my life. It was working through institutions. It's like more inclusive. It's not personality based as such. So I would be working through UNIMA. And through UNIMA means that it's UNIMA that is really responsible for the training, is putting it out on the platform, is publicizing it, is raising the money for it. And that is the entity which is holding the training workshop. And that happens every now and then. Not as frequently as we would like, but it has happened in the past. We've had master classes, bringing master puppeteers to interface with young puppeteers. We've had, master puppeteers working with younger generation of traditional puppeteers, because that is also a very big concern. That the younger generation of the traditional puppeteers should stay with their puppetry. So always struggling to find new ways of making that happen. So the master classes have played a big role in that.
But I entreat you, it's time to go majorly to the internet.
Acha.
I feel that you, like I've said, you carry a universe with you, which is much, much, much larger than the present, the future, and the past. And that universe can be available for everyone. Little bits of, I myself know many people who are working in doing theater in so-called challenged areas,
Acha.
bastis and all that.
Mhm.
And anything that they can get would be
Mm.
wonderful for them to have. And
You set it up, I'll do it.
you, that's the future. That's the future. Artificial intelligence is here. And people are I know, after what, talking with some of the women, girls on on my podcast, they actually went and joined Instagram, and because I told them, go do that, put
Mm.
yourself out there, because there's so little hope in the world around now. Everybody's
Yeah,
scared. Everybody's worried what the future will show.
that's true.
And there are people, so many amazing. India is such an amazing place.
It is, it is.
Yeah,
Wouldn't trade it for any other,
wonderful
yeah.
platform to play in.
That's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so sure. If you find uh, any avenues, or if you have any suggestions, or if you want me to do something, always there. But I can't.
Just put the phone in front of you and
Ah,
make short videos telling your experiences. I mean, if they're a minute, that is the Instagram space and the YouTube space takes that. And people are open to watching short videos. They might not sit and watch a whole video, and that you can do. It's like a historian writing for prosperity, for
ah,
posterity, that is. Yeah. And
I
that is
did.
amazing. There's so many theater people in Chandigarh, young people who are struggling to, know where to go, what to do, what makes them joyful and happy. That,
Hmm.
it's there, out there, available.
You
Then,
know who I met the other day? Who knows you? Harmeet.
oh yes, Harmeet is he's my nephew.
He's
He-
your nephew as well. Ah,
He's
okay.
my sister's son, and he's
Okay.
been, dangling around in our workshops
Yeah.
since he was little. And I
Hmm.
told you he chose to leave uh, this, what do you call it, engineering,
That's true. I
electronic
didn't know
engineering,
that.
and come to theater and dive into, not knowing where the future will get him. But look at him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing well. I had no idea. I just knew him as another cinematographer who's part of the studio here, who comes and goes. And then I was sitting next to him just the other day, and he gave me this whole story. I said, "Oh my God." He says, "You don't remember I came to interview you from Jamia?" I said, "You never made a puppet. That's why I don't remember you."
Yeah, I'm going to interview him,
Good.
because he has so many stories. So many universes that he has,
That's
dived into and dived out of, and that young people. Well, he'll always be young for me.
that's true.
Very young.
Yeah.
Yes, it's such interesting. And
Very interesting. Thanks.
yeah, I just asked myself one day that what can I do that no one else can do?
Hmm.
And so it came up because I know the theater world, uh,
Hmm.
and I've also used community theater. We mostly performed in the street, like you. We never went to the proscenium,
Right, right.
and I used the community theater processes to teach English, math, science, geography.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Have a plan for a school in my head, which can be totally based on theatre processes.
Absolutely. And this is the time, because now people are open to it. Harleen, when we used to go to the schools earlier on, and I used to have this once a week, that was the model. We have to come back to the same children every week. So the administrators didn't like it at all, because it meant paying somebody every week for a puppet show. So he told me, he said, मैडम ये तो लड्डू की तरह है, बच्चे रोज लड्डू खाएंगे तो उनका पेट खराब हो जाएगा.
What that means.
So I mean, just about anything goes. I said, you're not even getting it, and it's a layering, it's a build up.
When I used to go do workshop with teachers and all, तो अभी आज डीसी साहब आ रहे हैं, आज ये हो रहा है, आज वो हो रहा है, मैडम आप अपना किट छोड़ जाइए और जाइए, हम कहेंगे कि हो गया. मैंने कहा कहेंगे हो, तो वो थोड़ी देर.
Odd.
So yeah, there are all kinds of people out there.
Yeah, बहुत कुछ देखा है.
बहुत देखा है. Yeah, ये जमाना, this world is different. और फिर भी मेरे को रेलेवेंस लगती है.
नहीं, रेलेवेंस तो रहती है. And I think these differences that we see, there are huge differences. In our own lifetime, there have been so many changes,
And
so many.
I feel lucky.
Very lucky. Lived through all of it. I mean, imagine as a child, what was my exposure to theatre? Ram Leela?
Yeah.
The magician who used to come door to door, he used to go. What a script he had. How he used to show you that magic. That was script writing. I found him and I used to take him to Jamia. And I said, Aap iska show dekho. And you tell me if this is not a gripping narrative.
Yeah.
So that was our exposure. Bandar ka naach, Kathputli wala, Ram Leela.
I've interviewed an artist, actor, who actually is also a Ram Leela artist.
Yeah.
And he's a wonderful singer. और वो बचपन से रामलीला देखा, फिर करा. And the joy that the neighborhood where the happens has its young man who's हमारा है और देखो, and the story that is a shared kind of an experience that people hear all the time.
That's true. No, it was wonderful.
It is so important. जो भी है, मतलब जैसे भी है, वो भी चल रही है और भी चीजें चल रही है.
सब कुछ चल रहा है. That is the wonder. This is the thunderous wonder, is that सब चीज एक साथ चल रहा है.
एक साथ, और वो इंडिया में है.
India.
This
that's true.
Joyful country of ours.
We still have that. This wondrous, confluence. Everything, from the poor to the rich to this to that. There's so much diversity. It's mind-boggling. Everything is happening together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I've let this conversation go on because I'm enjoying it so much. I'm going to use, a little more than 30 or 40 minutes of it.
I hope you get what you want. But first, okay, let me send you the images and all that. Then it might come alive.
Yes, it will. The conversation was so enlivening, invigorating for me anyway. And I'm sure it'll be for many people like us who, can and are beginning to use the internet. So I'm so sad. It's time to go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ranjana ji. Thank you for coming on. I feel so honored. I feel so joyful and invigorated talking to you. And I'm so grateful for you, to have you in this world. And this world is a happy place because you're there.
Let's keep in touch. Let's keep in touch.
Yes, please. Yes, please.